The village of Kara rested quietly in the shadow of the tall blue mountains. Every morning, the sun rose over the peaks, sending golden light across the green fields and small stone cottages. Birds sang in the trees and the river sparkled as it flowed past the village. Life was calm, simple, and safe. But for Milo, the quiet village felt small. He often dreamed of adventures, of discovering new places, of finding something magical hidden in the mountains. One morning, Milo packed a small bag with bread, cheese, and a water bottle. He put on his sturdy boots and walked toward the mountains. The path was narrow and winding, lined with wildflowers that swayed in the breeze. Birds chirped above, and the air smelled fresh and sweet. Milo felt his heart beat faster. Today he thought he would find something extraordinary. He followed the mountain path for hours. Sunlight warmed his back and the wind cooled his face. Birds and insects moved around him as if guiding him forward. Suddenly he noticed a narrow opening in the mountain wall. It was almost hidden behind thick vines and moss. Milo's heart jumped. He had never seen this before. Curious, he pushed the vines aside and stepped carefully into the dark space. The air smelled cool and damp. Milo lit a small lantern and walked forward. The walls were rough and jagged, but as he went deeper, he saw a faint, soft glow. His eyes widened. The glow was coming from crystals embedded in the cave walls. Milo took a step closer and gasped. The crystals were not like anything he had ever seen. They were tall and sharp like frozen flames. Some were blue, some green, some pink, and all of them shone with a gentle light. As he touched one, it vibrated slightly and gave off a soft hum. Milo smiled. It was like the crystals were alive. He moved deeper into the cave and found a large cluster of crystals in the center. One crystal, taller than the others, shone brighter. Its light was warm and inviting, almost like it was calling to him. Milo reached out, and the crystal seemed to respond, pulsing softly under his hand. His heart raced. He felt a strange sense of wonder, as if he had found something that belonged only to him. Just then a voice echoed softly from the cave entrance. "Milo?" He turned quickly and saw Nina, the village healer, standing at the mouth of the cave. She held a small bag of herbs and looked surprised. "I heard about your adventure," she said, smiling nervously. "I thought I should see this for myself." Milo stepped aside, letting her enter. "You have to see it," he said. "It's amazing. The crystals. They're alive, Nina." Nina's eyes widened as she walked closer. "Alive, really?" She reached out and touched a small blue crystal. It hummed softly and she laughed in delight. "It is beautiful." The two of them moved together through the cave, exploring the glowing formations. Milo told her how he had found the hidden entrance and how he felt drawn to the large crystal. Nina listened carefully, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "This one seems special," she said, touching the bright crystal in the center. The crystal pulsed softly, and both of them felt a warm, gentle energy. It was calming, yet thrilling, like a heartbeat echoing through the cave. Milo smiled at Nina. "It's as if the crystal knows us." Nina nodded slowly. "Or maybe it reflects what we feel inside. Maybe it responds to kindness, to wonder, or to friendship." She looked at Milo and blushed slightly, though she quickly looked away. Milo felt a warm feeling in his chest, a mix of excitement and something he could not yet name. They spent hours in the cave, touching the crystals, watching them glow, and listening to the soft hum that filled the air. The outside world seemed far away. Time felt slower, gentle, and full of magic. They laughed when a small crystal lit up blue and green in a pattern that looked like dancing flames. When the sun began to set, Milo and Nina finally stepped out of the cave. The evening light painted the mountains orange and gold. Birds returned to their nests and the river reflected the sky like a sheet of glass. Milo looked at Nina and said, I think we were meant to find this together." Nina smiled softly, feeling a warm connection she could not explain. "Yes, I think so too." As they walked back to the village, the hidden cave remained behind them, glowing softly in the mountain's heart. Neither of them knew exactly what the future held, but both felt certain of one thing. Something extraordinary had begun, something that would change their lives forever. And deep within the cave, the largest crystal pulsed gently as if breathing, alive, aware, and ready to share its magic with those who had found it. The next morning, the village of Kara woke to soft sunlight spilling over the mountains. Birds chirped as if celebrating a new day. Milo woke early, filled with excitement. The memory of the glowing crystals and Nina's laughter stayed with him. He could not stop thinking about the cave, about the mysterious crystal that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat, and about the gentle warmth he felt whenever Nina was near. He decided to return to the cave. With a small bag of bread and water, he climbed the familiar path, his boots crunching on the stones. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the sweet scent of flowers. Milo's heart raced with anticipation. Something told him today would be special. When he reached the cave entrance, he saw Nina already waiting. She had brought a small lantern and a notebook. Her hair shone in the morning light, and her eyes sparkled with curiosity. Milo smiled shyly. "I came early," Nina said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "I wanted to see the crystals again, and maybe understand them better." Milo nodded. "I was thinking the same. I want to know why this crystal feels so alive." Together they stepped into the cave. The familiar glow of the crystals greeted them, soft and gentle. The large crystal in the center seemed to recognize them. It pulsed slowly, its light warm like the sun on a quiet morning. Milo and Nina both reached out, and the crystal responded with a stronger, steady glow. "This is incredible," Nina whispered. "It's like it knows us, like it understands what we feel." Milo looked at her, feeling a connection stronger than words. "Do you think it reflects our feelings?" he asked. Nina nodded slowly. "Maybe I feel happy here, calm, and curious. I think the crystal feels the same." They spent hours exploring the cave, touching different crystals, watching them change colors. When Milo touched a small green crystal, it shimmered like sunlight on leaves. When Nina touched a pink crystal, it glowed softly, like a quiet heartbeat. Sometimes when their hands were close, the central crystal in the middle pulsed brighter, as if responding to both of them. Milo noticed it first. "Look," he said, pointing. "Whenever we're near each other, the big crystal shines brighter." Nina's eyes widened. "It's true. I didn't notice before. Maybe the crystal likes it when we work together." They laughed softly, their voices echoing in the cave. The sound mingled with the soft hum of the crystals, creating a melody that filled the air. Milo felt a warmth in his chest he had never felt before. It was not just excitement or curiosity. It was something deeper, something that made him want to stay near Nina forever. Nina noticed the same feeling. She looked at Milo, and her heart beat faster. She had always respected him as a kind and brave person, but now she felt a gentle pull, a connection she could not explain. The crystals seemed to mirror it, glowing brighter as if encouraging them. At one point they found a small crystal that was cracked. Milo carefully held it, and Nina placed her hand on his. The crystal's glow slowly returned, soft and steady. They smiled at each other, understanding without words. They had restored it together. "This is what I mean," Nina said softly. "The crystals. They respond to kindness, to care. When we work together, they shine. Maybe they are teaching us something." Milo nodded, his eyes meeting hers. "Maybe they want us to understand that connection. Friendship, trust, even love." He felt his cheeks warm, and Nina smiled, a faint blush on her face. The afternoon sunlight began to fade, sending long shadows into the cave. Milo and Nina sat quietly near the big crystal, watching its gentle glow. They did not speak, but the silence was comfortable. Milo felt like he had found something he had been searching for all his life. Not just the magic of the crystals, but the magic of friendship, of understanding, of someone who truly cared. Nina reached out and lightly touched his hand. Milo's heart leapt. The crystal pulsed stronger, brightening like it shared their joy. Nina laughed softly. "I think the crystal likes that," she said. Milo laughed too, a happy, light sound. "I think so too. It feels alive, but not just the crystal. I feel alive too here with you." As the sun set behind the mountains, Milo and Nina left the cave, carrying with them the glow of the crystals in their hearts. The village looked peaceful below, and the river shimmered in the evening light. They walked together side by side, a quiet understanding growing between them. Neither spoke of their feelings directly, but both knew something had changed. The connection between them was real, strong, and reflected in the gentle glow of the crystal breath. And deep inside the cave, the largest crystal pulsed gently, as if whispering a promise of more adventures, more discoveries, and a bond that was only beginning to grow. A few days after their first long visit to the cave, Milo and Nina returned with a new sense of purpose. The glow of the crystals had stayed in their minds, and they felt a strong need to explore deeper. The villagers, though curious, respected their wish to keep the cave a secret. Milo carried a small lantern, and Nina held a notebook to record their discoveries. The path to the cave was bright with morning light, and the air smelled of fresh pine. Birds sang cheerfully as if wishing them luck. Milo noticed that his heart beat faster when Nina walked beside him. He felt both excitement and a gentle nervousness, though he did not know why. Once inside the cave, the familiar glow greeted them. The big crystal pulsed softly as if welcoming them. Milo reached out to touch it, and the light shimmered brighter under his hand. Nina smiled. "It feels like it knows us better each time we visit," she said. They began to explore a narrow passage that led deeper into the cave. The walls glimmered with tiny crystals that seemed almost alive. Milo felt the energy of the cave around him. "I think the crystals are stronger here," he said. "It's like they are waiting for something." Nina nodded. "Maybe they test us. They want to see if we are ready to understand their magic." As they moved forward, the ground suddenly shook slightly. Small stones fell from the ceiling, and Milo caught a glimpse of dust moving in the air. "A tremor," he exclaimed. The cave had shifted from a previous storm, making parts of it unstable. Nina took a deep breath. "We must be careful. Some crystals could be trapped or broken." They continued slowly, helping each other through the narrow passages. The big crystal's light seemed to guide them. As they rounded a corner, they found a cluster of crystals trapped under a fallen rock. The light from these crystals was weak and flickering. Milo knelt down to examine it. "These crystals are hurt," he said softly. "We have to help them." Nina crouched beside him. "We need to lift the rock carefully together." They positioned themselves on either side of the heavy stone. Milo counted 1, 2, 3. They pushed with all their strength, straining against the weight. Sweat ran down their faces, but slowly the rock began to move. Finally, with a final push, the rock rolled away. The trapped crystals were free. As Milo and Nina stepped back, the crystal's glow returned, stronger than before. The central crystal pulsed brightly, almost like it was smiling. Milo looked at Nina. "We did it." "Together." Nina's eyes sparkled. Yes, and it felt right. Helping them, helping each other. They spent the next few hours exploring and learning from the crystals. They noticed that when they laughed or spoke kindly, the crystals responded, glowing brighter or changing colors. When they worked together, the big crystal pulsed steadily like a heartbeat. Milo realized the cave was teaching them more than just its magic. It was teaching trust, patience, and teamwork. During a pause, Milo and Nina sat near the glowing cluster. Milo felt nervous. "Nina, I think these crystals, they show us who we really are. And maybe how we feel about each other." Nina looked at him, her cheeks warming slightly. "I think you're right," she said softly. "I feel safe here, and happy." "With you." Milo's heart leapt. He felt the crystal pulse under his hand, brighter than ever. "I feel the same," he admitted. They both smiled, shy but happy. The crystals seemed to shimmer in approval, lighting the cave like the morning sun. As they prepared to leave, a small rumble echoed through the cave. Dust fell from above, and the narrow passages felt smaller. Milo grabbed Nina's hand. "We need to move fast," he said. They carefully retraced their steps, helping each other over rocks and slippery stones. The cave seemed alive, testing them once more. Finally, they emerged into the sunlight. Their clothes were dusty and their hands trembled from effort, but they felt a deep satisfaction. The big crystal's glow seemed to follow them even from inside the cave, a gentle reminder of their courage and teamwork. Walking back to the village, Milo turned to Nina. "We faced a challenge, and we succeeded. Together, I think. I trust us. With anything." Nina smiled, squeezing his hand. "Me too, Milo. The crystals. They showed us that strength comes not just from magic, but from caring for each other." That evening, Milo and Nina could not stop thinking about the cave. They realized that the challenge had brought them closer, teaching them about teamwork, trust, and something deeper, an unspoken bond that went beyond friendship. Deep within the cave, the crystals pulsed softly, like a quiet heartbeat, as if promising more adventures, more lessons, and more discoveries waiting just for them. The village of Kara was alive with excitement. Colorful banners hung from the rooftops, and the scent of fresh bread and sweet fruits filled the air. Today was the annual mountain festival, a celebration of the village, the mountains, and all the beauty they offered. Villagers danced, sang, and shared stories as sunlight warmed the streets. Milo and Nina walked together through the festival, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. This was their first festival after discovering the cave, and they both wondered if the magic of the crystals would appear in the celebration. "Look at all the colors," Nina said, her eyes wide as she watched children chase each other around a fountain. "The village looks so happy today," Milo smiled. "It does, I think. It feels even brighter after what we saw in the cave. Maybe the crystals are part of it somehow." Nina laughed softly. "You always think about the crystals. I like that about you." Milo's heart skipped a beat, but he said nothing. Instead, he took her hand gently as they moved deeper into the festival. In the village square, the main celebration was about to begin. A large stone stage had been set up, and villagers gathered around, clapping and singing. Suddenly, something strange happened. Small lights began appearing around the square. They were soft, glowing and floating like tiny stars. Milo's eyes widened. "Nina, look," he whispered. The glowing lights moved closer, circling around them and the other villagers. Milo felt a warm sensation in his chest, and Nina's hand in his felt even warmer. "It's the crystals," Nina said, awe in her voice. "They're here, outside the cave." The villagers gasped in amazement. The glowing lights swirled around them, following their movements. When Milo and Nina laughed, the lights twinkled like 1,000 tiny candles. When they moved together, the largest light pulsed brighter, almost like a heartbeat. Milo whispered to Nina, "I think the crystals respond to how we feel. Maybe our happiness and our bond make them shine." Nina nodded, her cheeks warm. "It's like they're showing everyone the magic of connection, not just the cave." The festival became even more joyful as the villagers realized the lights were friendly and magical. Children reached out to touch them, and the lights shimmered and moved around them. Couples held hands, and the lights pulsed gently with their laughter. Milo and Nina watched, feeling a quiet pride. The crystals were showing the village what they had felt in the cave. Kindness, trust, and happiness created a special kind of light. At one point, a group of children tried to follow a particularly bright light that hovered near the fountain. Milo and Nina ran after them, making sure no one got hurt. The light seemed to guide them, moving safely around rocks and steps. When the children laughed, the largest light pulsed even stronger. Milo looked at Nina and smiled. "They respond to teamwork too," he said. "Just like in the cave." Nina laughed softly. "Yes, and to joy. Look at the village! Everyone is happier because of them. And maybe because of us, too." As the sun began to set behind the mountains, the festival lights glimmered even brighter. The glowing lights danced with the lanterns in the village square, creating a beautiful reflection on the river. Milo and Nina stood together, holding hands, feeling the warmth of both the lights in their hearts. "You know," Milo said quietly, "I never imagined something like this could happen, that the crystals could share their magic with everyone." Nina smiled, leaning slightly closer. "It's wonderful. And I think it shows us something too, that our feelings, our kindness, and the way we care for each other, they have power." Milo felt a rush of happiness. He wanted to say more, to tell Nina exactly how he felt, but the words stuck in his throat. Instead, he squeezed her hand gently, and Nina squeezed back. The largest light pulsed once, bright and steady, as if it understood their unspoken feelings. The festival continued into the evening. Music filled the air, and the villagers danced beneath the stars and the magical lights. Milo and Nina stayed close, laughing, watching the lights move and feeling the quiet magic of connection. They realized that the crystals had changed more than the cave. They had begun to touch the hearts of everyone in the village. When the festival finally ended, Milo and Nina walked together back toward the mountains. The floating lights slowly returned to the cave, leaving behind a calm glow in the night. Milo looked at Nina and whispered, "I think the crystals are happiest when we're together." Nina smiled softly, her eyes shining in the moonlight. "And I think, so am I." Deep within the mountains, the largest crystal pulsed gently, as if breathing. It had witnessed courage, teamwork, and joy. It had seen the beginnings of a bond stronger than anything Milo or Nina had felt before. And it knew that this was only the start of a greater adventure, one filled with magic, discovery, and the quiet power of connection. After the festival, Milo and Nina returned to their daily routines in the village, but the memory of the glowing light stayed with them. The crystals had shown the villagers their magic, and the bond between Milo and Nina had grown stronger. Yet both felt a quiet curiosity about the cave and its secrets, wondering why the crystals seemed so alive and why they responded to their feelings. One morning, Milo packed a small bag and walked to the cave alone, hoping to explore deeper passages they had not yet seen. When he arrived, he saw Nina waiting outside, holding a notebook filled with sketches of the crystals. "I couldn't wait," she said with a bright smile. "I think there is more to discover." Together they stepped into the cave. The familiar glow welcomed them, but today the crystals pulsed differently. The large central crystal shimmered as if anticipating something. Milo and Nina exchanged a look. "It feels different," Milo said. They moved deeper into the cave, following a narrow tunnel that twisted and turned. Tiny crystals lined the walls, shimmering in shades of blue, pink, and green. As they walked, Nina noticed an old, faded inscription carved into the stone. She knelt to read it. "Milo, look at this," she said softly. The inscription was written in an old style, but she could understand the meaning. It says, "The crystal breath reflects human connection. Love, trust, and courage make it shine." Milo's eyes widened. So it isn't just magic for beauty. It reacts to people, to their hearts. He reached out to the large crystal and it pulsed warmly under his hand. "That explains why it glows so brightly when we're together." Nina nodded, but a thoughtful look crossed her face. "There's more," she said. "I just remembered. My grandmother used to tell stories about crystals like these. She said our family was linked to them, that we had a special role in protecting their magic." Milo looked at her, surprised. "You mean, you were always meant to find the cave?" Nina nodded slowly. "I think so. The stories were old, maybe forgotten by most of the village, but the crystals, they guided me here. And now, with you, I feel like we were meant to discover their secret together." Milo felt a thrill of wonder and responsibility. The crystals were not just beautiful, they had a purpose, and somehow he and Nina were part of it. "We have to understand them fully," he said. "We can't just enjoy the glow. We have to protect it and learn from it." Nina agreed, tracing the shapes of the crystals with her hand. "They respond to kindness, to teamwork, and to our feelings. But there's something more, I think. Something about destiny, about who we are." As they explored further, they found a chamber filled with small crystals arranged in a pattern that resembled a heartbeat. The light from these crystals was gentle but steady, pulsing like a quiet song. Milo and Nina realized that the cave itself was alive, a reflection of the emotions and courage of those who entered it. "I feel like the cave is teaching us," Milo said. "It shows us how our feelings matter, how our choices and care for each other can create something beautiful." Nina smiled. "And maybe it's showing us that connection is powerful. Not just magic, but friendship, trust, love." She looked at Milo, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the crystals. He felt his chest tighten with emotion, a gentle warmth he could not describe. For a moment they stood silently, hands nearly touching, letting the cave's quiet energy fill them. Milo realized that the crystals had not only connected him to Nina, but had also revealed a deeper truth, that caring, trust, and courage could create something as bright as any magic. Suddenly, a soft hum filled the chamber. The crystal's glow brightened, sending waves of light across the walls. Milo and Nina exchanged a glance. The cave seemed to recognize their understanding, acknowledging the bond that had grown between them. "We have much to learn," Milo said, "but I feel ready, as long as we are together." Nina nodded, her smile gentle and warm. "Me too, Milo, I think this is just the beginning. The crystals have secrets, yes, but they also have a gift, and that gift is for those who care enough to understand it." As they left the chamber and walked back toward the entrance, the cave's light glowed softly behind them. They knew that more challenges, discoveries, and perhaps dangers lay ahead, but they were no longer afraid. The crystals had revealed a secret that mattered most. Connection, trust, and courage were stronger than any obstacle. Outside, the mountains glowed in the late afternoon sun. Milo and Nina looked at each other and smiled, sharing a quiet understanding. They had uncovered part of the mystery, and in doing so, had discovered a deeper bond between themselves. And deep inside the cave, the largest crystal pulsed gently as if breathing, ready to reveal more of its secrets to those who were brave and kind enough to seek them. After the discoveries in the cave, Milo and Nina spent several days thinking about the crystals and their connection to each other. They had shared moments of laughter, joy, and quiet understanding. Yet despite their closeness, a small cloud of misunderstanding began to grow between them. One morning, Milo prepared to visit the cave, eager to continue exploring. When he arrived, he found Nina talking to a villager near the entrance. She was smiling, gesturing toward the mountains, and Milo misread her words. "I think the crystals might be too much for us to handle alone," the villager said. Milo's heart sank. He thought Nina meant she was worried about him, or worse, that she didn't trust him. For a moment, he felt a sting of hurt. "Maybe she thinks I'm not ready," he whispered to himself. He turned without saying a word and walked down the path back to the village. His thoughts raced and his mind twisted small misunderstandings into bigger worries. Meanwhile, Nina noticed Milo's sudden departure. She frowned. He looked upset. "But I didn't say anything wrong," she murmured. A feeling of unease grew inside her. "Maybe he thinks I don't trust him," she thought. "But I do. I just want us to be careful." For the next few days, the two avoided each other more than usual. Milo threw himself into helping the villagers with small tasks, and Nina focused on her healing work. The crystal cave seemed quiet in their absence, the glow of the large crystal dimmer than before. Even the smallest crystals along the walls pulsed weakly, as if reflecting the tension between Milo and Nina. One afternoon, Milo could not bear the quiet any longer. He returned to the cave, hoping to clear his mind. He walked through the familiar tunnels, noticing how the crystals seemed less lively. The large crystal's light pulsed slowly, almost like a soft sigh. Milo knelt beside it, feeling a pang of regret. "I shouldn't have left," he whispered. "I misjudged Nina. I let my fear get in the way." At the same time, Nina decided to visit the cave alone. She wanted to understand why the crystals felt different without Milo. As she entered, she saw the dim light of the large crystal. It seemed weaker, almost lonely. "It misses him," she murmured. "And I miss him too." When Milo and Nina finally saw each other in the cave, they froze. The space between them felt heavier than ever. Milo looked at Nina, his chest tight. I thought you didn't trust me," he said, his voice quiet. Nina blinked, surprised. "What? No, Milo. I only wanted us to be careful. I never meant to make you feel that way." Milo's shoulders slumped. "I misread what I heard. I thought you didn't believe in us." Nina stepped closer. "I do, Milo. I believe in us and I believe in the cave, but I didn't want us to rush. The crystals, they are important. We must understand them together." Slowly, Milo reached out. Nina hesitated for a moment, then took his hand. The large crystal pulsed gently, brighter than it had in days. Its light seemed to breathe, as if encouraging them to reconnect. Both Milo and Nina felt a warmth spread through their hearts. "I'm sorry," Milo said softly. "I should have trusted you and I should have talked to you instead of leaving." "I'm sorry too," Nina replied. "I should have explained more clearly. We both let our thoughts create a distance between us." They sat together near the glowing cluster, hands clasped, watching the light of the crystal grow steady and strong. Slowly, the tension faded, replaced by understanding. The cave seemed alive again, its glow reflecting the trust and connection returning between them. After a while, Milo smiled at Nina. "I think the cave shows us more than just magic. It shows us ourselves and each other." Nina nodded, her eyes shining. "Yes. Even when we make mistakes, it teaches us to care, to trust, and to stay connected." As they left the cave together, the mountains were bathed in the golden light of evening. Birds flew across the sky, and the river reflected the colors of the sunset. Milo and Nina walked side by side, their hands still entwined. Though the rift had tested them, it had also made their bond stronger. Deep within the cave, the largest crystal pulsed steadily, like a calm heartbeat. It seemed to hum softly, as if whispering a quiet approval. Milo and Nina had learned an important lesson. Trust, understanding, and communication were as essential as courage and kindness. The crystals had not only reflected their emotions, they had helped them grow closer. And so, with the village below and the mountains above, Milo and Nina stepped forward together, ready to face the next adventure, stronger, wiser, and more connected than ever. The morning sun shone gently over the village of Kara, casting long shadows across the green fields. Milo and Nina woke with a quiet determination. After the rift that had come between them, they both felt the need to return to the cave together. It was the place where their connection had first begun, and where the magic of the crystals seemed strongest. Today they would face the cave as a team. Milo arrived first, carrying a small lantern and a bag with some bread and water. He waited near the cave entrance, feeling both excitement and a touch of nervousness. He wondered if Nina felt the same, if the cave would welcome them as it had before, and if their bond had grown stronger through the distance. Soon Nina appeared at the entrance, her notebook in hand. She smiled warmly when she saw Milo. "Good morning," she said softly. "I'm glad we're here together today." Milo smiled back. "Me too. Let's see what the crystals have in store for us." They stepped into the cave. The familiar glow of the crystals greeted them, but this time it was brighter and steadier, as if the cave knew they had reconciled. The large central crystal pulsed gently like a heartbeat, guiding them deeper into the tunnels. As they explored, they noticed how the crystals responded to their teamwork. When they touched small clusters together, the light grew warmer and stronger. When they laughed, the colors shifted to soft pinks and greens. It felt as if the cave itself was celebrating their renewed trust and connection. At one point, they came to a chamber they had not fully explored before. The walls were lined with small, delicate crystals, and the floor was covered in soft, glowing stones. The large crystal in the center pulsed brighter than ever, filling the chamber with a gentle light. Milo and Nina sat down on the glowing floor, hands close but not yet touching. "This place, it feels alive," Nina whispered. "And it feels like it reflects us. How we've grown." Milo nodded. "The cave showed us more than magic. It showed us ourselves, and how important we are to each other." He hesitated for a moment, then gently reached for Nina's hand. She looked at him, her eyes soft and full of trust. Slowly, she intertwined her fingers with his. The large crystal pulsed strongly, as if encouraging them. A warm light spread through the chamber surrounding them. Milo and Nina felt the cave's magic echo their feelings, calm, steady, and full of understanding. "I was afraid we might lose this," Milo said quietly. "But now, I know we can face anything together." Nina smiled, her cheeks slightly warm. "I was afraid too, Milo, but the cave and you reminded me that connection and trust are stronger than any fear." For a few moments they sat in silence, letting the gentle glow of the crystals fill them with peace. Then Milo leaned slightly closer. "I think I care about you more than I realized," he said softly. Nina's heart beat faster. "I care about you too, Milo. I felt it all along." As their words settled, the largest crystal pulsed brighter, bathing the chamber in a radiant glow. The small crystals along the walls shimmered and danced as if celebrating the moment. The cave itself seemed to breathe around them, echoing their joy. Milo smiled and gently brushed a strand of hair from Nina's face. She leaned closer, and for the first time their lips met in a soft, gentle kiss. The cave's light pulsed in harmony with their heartbeat, warm and steady. In that moment, the magic of the crystals, the bond between them, and their shared courage and trust felt as one. After a while, they pulled back slightly, still holding hands. Milo whispered, "I think the crystals, the cave, they wanted us to realize this. That connection, care, and courage. They are the true magic." Nina nodded, resting her head gently on his shoulder. "And now we understand. We've faced challenges, learned from mistakes, and grown closer. The cave reflects what's in our hearts, and it shows the best of us when we care for each other." They spent the rest of the afternoon exploring the chamber together. Every crystal they touched responded to their laughter and cooperation, pulsing brighter as if echoing their joy. Milo and Nina worked together to study the patterns in the glowing stones, realizing that the crystals had lessons to teach, lessons about trust, courage, and the strength of a bond built on care and understanding. As the sun began to set outside, Milo and Nina made their way back toward the cave entrance. The mountains glowed in golden light, and the river shimmered below. Hand in hand, they walked together, knowing that their connection had grown stronger through the challenges and the lessons of the cave. Deep inside, the largest crystal pulsed steadily, like a calm heartbeat. It had witnessed their reconciliation, their first gentle kiss, and the strength of their trust. It seemed to whisper a promise that the bond between Milo and Nina, strengthened by courage, kindness, and care, would continue to grow, and that many more adventures awaited them, guided by the light of the crystal breath. The morning sun rose over the village of Kara, filling the streets with a warm golden light. Milo and Nina walked together toward the mountains, their hands intertwined. The cave had become a part of their lives, a place of magic, lessons, and shared memories. Today they felt ready to share its wonder with the villagers while protecting its secrets. The path to the cave was bright and alive with birdsong. Milo looked at Nina and smiled. "It feels like the cave is waiting for us," he said softly. Nina laughed. "Maybe it is. But it's ready to share its magic with others too. We just need to show them how to care." When they reached the cave, the familiar glow welcomed them. The large crystal pulsed softly as if breathing, its light calm and steady. Milo and Nina stepped inside, their hearts full of wonder. They carefully moved through the tunnels, touching crystals and watching the colors shift with their emotions. "I never imagined the cave could be so alive," Milo said. "And now I understand. The crystals reflect what's inside us, the care, the courage, the connection we share." Nina nodded. "Yes, and now it's time to show the village that magic is not just in crystals, but in how we care for each other." They returned to the village together, leading a small group of villagers to the cave. At first, the villagers were cautious, but as they stepped inside, the glow of the crystals filled the chamber, casting soft, colorful light on the walls. Children laughed as small crystals floated around them, shimmering in response to their joy. Adults gasped in awe, feeling the warmth and calm that the cave shared with those who approached with kindness. Milo and Nina guided the villagers gently. "The crystals respond to how you feel," Milo explained. "Kindness, courage, and trust make them shine. They are alive, but only when we care." The villagers experimented carefully, touching the crystals and noticing the colors shift with their laughter, their careful movements, and their smiles. The largest crystal pulsed steadily, brighter than ever, as if celebrating the harmony in the room. Nina looked at Milo, her eyes shining. "It's working. Everyone can feel the magic, but they also feel each other." Milo squeezed her hand. "Yes, and it's all because we care, and we share it together." As the sun set, the village gathered outside the cave. The lights from the crystals reflected in the river, sparkling like 1,000 tiny stars. Milo and Nina stood at the entrance, looking at the glow, and at the joyful faces of their friends and neighbors. The cave had become more than a secret. It was now a symbol of hope, connection, and the power of caring. One of the villagers, an elder named Taro, approached them. "I've never seen anything like this," he said. "These crystals, they are not just beautiful, they teach us something important, about courage, trust, and the bonds we share." Milo nodded. "Exactly. The cave showed us that, and now it can teach everyone if we remember to care." Nina smiled. "And it reminds us that love and friendship are the strongest kinds of magic." As the night sky filled with stars, Milo and Nina stood together, hands still entwined. The mountains loomed quietly around them, and the river reflected the soft glow of the cave. Milo felt a quiet happiness, a sense of peace that came from knowing he and Nina had faced challenges, learned, and grown closer together. Nina leaned slightly against him. "We've come a long way," she said softly. "From the first time we found the cave, to now, sharing it with everyone, and we've learned so much about ourselves and each other." Milo smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Yes, and I think this is only the beginning. The cave has more to teach us, but as long as we face it together, there's nothing we can't handle." They turned to look back at the cave. The largest crystal pulsed gently like a calm heartbeat. Its glow seemed to promise many more adventures, discoveries, and lessons. Milo and Nina knew that their bond, strengthened by courage, trust, and care, would grow brighter with each day, just like the crystal breath itself. The villagers cheered softly as Milo and Nina stepped forward together. The magic of the crystals reflected in their eyes, but it also reflected in the hearts of everyone around them. Laughter, trust, and joy filled the evening, and the mountains, the village, and the river seemed to glow with the quiet light of connection. As the stars shone above, Milo and Nina stood side by side, hearts full of hope and love. They had discovered a secret of the mountains, learned the lessons of the cave, and found a bond that was stronger than anything else. With the crystal's gentle glow behind them and the village around them, they were ready for whatever adventures awaited. Together, the largest crystal pulsed one final time for the night.